dry fast and fresh, too, so sour odors won't build up. Try Fresh Guy disposable kitchen cloths.
After every chore, Fresh Guy rinses clean and asks for more.
Save now at Howard's. Quarter-carat diamond earrings, now just $99 at both Howard stores.
No one can beat my prices.
Save now at Howard's Discount.
Depression. What are the latest treatments? On News 4 at 5.
12 o'clock live with Dan Mountney, Sue Carter, and Rick Griffin in Weather Watch.
Good afternoon, everyone. There are reports of an earth tremor in the Detroit area this noon. Our newsroom has been flooded with calls from people claiming their houses were vibrating or objects shaking. The calls came from many areas, including Dearborn, Romulus, Clinton Township, and downtown Detroit. It just happened about 10 or 15 minutes ago. We're checking with local experts to find out whether or not what happened was a slight earthquake. No reports of any damage, though, so far. The White House this hour is trying to learn who's in charge in the Caribbean nation of Haiti. Earlier today, White House spokesman Larry Speake said Jean-Claude Duvalier had fled the country after his government had fallen. The State Department disputed the report, and so did Duvalier, who reportedly took to the radio in Haiti, insisting he was still in control. Last night, the Haitian community in Miami turned a celebration for the reported collapse into a riot in the streets of that city. One woman was killed in the violence. NASA is expected to bring in more pieces of debris today that appear to be from the Shuttle Challenger. This morning, large sections of tile-coated wreckage were recovered by the Coast Guard. Items that looked like parts of the shuttle's cockpit were also reported to be floating in the same area as those pieces there.
They also have had multiple sonar sightings in the area indicating that there is some large object or objects on the bottom of the ocean underneath that site.
A Jacksonville man has also found charred wreckage far north of Cape Canaveral, and 30 miles south, researchers are examining bits of human bone and tissue that washed ashore there. President Reagan continues to say the space program must go on despite the shuttle tragedy. Last night at a Political Action Committee dinner in Washington, the president confirmed that an independent panel might be created to study all U.S. space programs. But his main message was that the U.S. must keep leading the way in space exploration.
The tragedy of the Shuttle 7 will only serve to strengthen the resolve of America to pursue their dream of the stars and beyond. And anyone who doubts this does not know the history of our land, the wonder of America and her free people, or the meaning of the words, the right stuff.
President Reagan also quoted former astronaut John Glenn. Glenn had said support for the space program actually went up after the deaths of 3 astronauts in 1967 to show they did not die in vain. Well, services for the astronauts who died aboard the space shuttle continue across the U.S. and here in Michigan. At the Jackson Space Center, services were held this morning for teacher astronaut Christa McAuliffe. The service coincides with the day she was to deliver her first lessons from space. President Reagan will speak at official memorial services for the 7 astronauts today in Houston. NBC's Bob Oliver reports preparations for those services have been underway for several days.
There is no such thing as a simple memorial service when the president is involved. They had to uproot trees and remove lampposts at the Johnson Space Center to make room for an expected crowd of 10,000. The public won't be invited. NASA spokesman said there just isn't enough room.
It's for the people who live here and work here at Johnson Space Center, and you would need to have, a NASA badge such as this or a news media badge to be able to be allowed in. And we're sorry about that, but faced with hard choices, that's all we can do.
Work continued into the night, laying carpet where the families of the Challenger astronauts will be seated. President Reagan will meet privately with them inside a building and then escort them to their seats just before he gives a short address to those assembled to pay tribute to Shuttle Flight 51L. If the foggy weather permits, the service will conclude with a flyby of NASA jets, the ones used by the astronauts to fly to the Cape. They'll fly with an empty space in the missing man formation. Don Oliver in Houston.
The memorial services with the President and Mrs. Reagan will be carried live right here on Channel 4 immediately after our newscast at 12:30. As we said a few moments ago, there have been reports of a tremor felt throughout the Detroit area. A lot of folks calling us up saying they felt the ground shake just before noon today. Our Tom Marshall is in our newsroom right now with more on all of this. Tom, have you been able to figure out what's going on?
Well, Dan, the information is a little bit sketchy right here at the moment, but what I just got off the phone a few moments ago with the National Earthquake Information Center in Golden, Colorado. They tell me that they did have alarms that went off shortly before noon. I asked what that meant. They didn't have any information that they could really give me. They have alarms that sense tremors across the country. They told me that those alarms are going off. They are investigating at the moment. We also have confirmation from the National Weather Service in Ann Arbor. They say that at 11:49 they did detect a minor tremor. Our newsroom, as you may be able to hear in the background, is being flooded, has been flooded, and with calls. Calls are still coming in from people in at least 7 downriver communities who say that buildings were shaking and dishes shaking and whatnot. People in this building felt something for just a few seconds. So we are investigating at this moment. We will continue to update you with information as it becomes available. Dan?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Tom Marshall reporting from our newsroom. We'll stay on top of this situation. Well, is there illegal drug use inside the Detroit office of the Drug Enforcement Administration? That's the question federal authorities are trying to answer. The Detroit Free Press reports that the agency's Washington office is investigating the Detroit office. The probe involves charges that several civilian employees, not agents, may be using illegal drugs. The local office is refusing any comment on that report. We'll have more news ahead. We're going to check in with Rick Griffin for a look at our Friday forecast, a peek at the weekend, and lots more news when 12 o'clock live returns. Stay with us.
Dessert, madam. It's yogurt.
For dessert? Unheard of.
Introducing the yogurt that is good enough for dessert. Dannon Supreme. An extraordinarily delightful Dannon.
Really? Smashing!
Dannon's best fruit in not one, but 2 luscious layers.
Marvelous dessert, darling.
My idea, you know.
Yes, madam.
Yogurt good enough for dessert. Dannon Supreme.
Most doctors like to have something hopeful to say to a patient who's getting bad news. And when the bad news is cancer, the hope is Harper Hospital. Harper is a major force in America's network of only 20 comprehensive cancer centers. And every day, university scientists and research physicians here are gaining ground in the battle against cancer. Ask your doctor about Harper Hospital.
For more information, call Harper Hospital at 494-8000.
Okay, Kroger, you say boneless beef isn't more expensive? Show me.
This 3-pound bone-in chuck roast is only about 2.5 pounds of meat. The boneless chuck roast from Kroger is a full 3 pounds of USDA choice grain-fed beef. No bones, no waste, more meat. Kroger boneless costs no more per serving than bone-in. See the difference. Go Krogering.
Grain-fed boneless shoulder arm roast, 3 to 5 pound average, just $1.19 a pound.
The most beautiful faces are covered with mud.
You may not know me with my mud mask on, but soon, poof, a glamorous actress with glowing skin and a smile critics say could light up the stage.
Say, who was that masked woman?
Mud mask.
I picked up this bulletin about PMS, premenstrual syndrome, from my doctor. And I learned what I can do for real relief. I can take Primusin PMS, clinically proven relief for minor tension, cramps, and bloating. Maximum strength Primusin PMS.
Reaching out for options here. Let's start a kinship now.
Call Big Brothers Big Sisters, 569-0600.
In Troy last night, an 8-hour police search for a missing boy ended safely. 11-year-old Olin Schrock failed to go home from school yesterday. After several hours, his disappearance prompted a massive area search that involved helicopters, K-9 units, and several area police departments. Olin was found at the home of relatives, afraid of what his dad would say about his report card.
Yeah, I'm scared about that. Yeah, he walked 3.5 miles to my sister's and hid behind the couch for all that time and fell asleep. Never really probably knowing that we had the many people out there looking for him as what there were. So glad he's back, though.
Apparently, he fell asleep behind a couch at his aunt's house. His dad says he wants to thank everyone who was part of that search. Well, he used to ask, "Go ahead, make my day." Now he's asking the residents of Carmel, California to make him their mayor. Actor Clint Eastwood filed papers yesterday to run for mayor of that small California town. The man best known for his portrayal of tough guy Dirty Harry says he prefers diplomacy as a means of solving problems, not the negative approach being taken by the current mayor and city council. Well, stupid pet tricks, human potato chips. I guess we're going to talk to David Letterman in just a little bit, but they tell me in my ear he's not standing by just yet. So we're going to take a break and try and have David for you in just 1 minute. Stay with us, please.
We tried.
It's not mine exactly, but it's very good.
We tried to make Heinz home-style gravy exactly like homemade.
Oh, and it showed.
We used real beef and beef juices.
You obviously worked very hard.
Stirred in flour, just the right seasoning, stirred it and stirred it.
Close.
Close?
No lumps.
Maybe we stirred it too much. Heinz home-style gravy, so close to homemade.
One day that's special, a one-of-a-kind day. Thank goodness for Sunday, before it has ended. More people will spend it, will share it with us.
More people share Sundays with the Detroit News than with any other newspaper in Michigan.
Now, stupid pet tricks, human potato chip dip, the Velcro wall. If you've seen these things, then you've seen Sue Carter's next guest, who now joins us. Sue?
Thank you, Dan. The Late Night with David Letterman celebrates its 4th anniversary with a special 90-minute edition tomorrow night. The show premiered February 1st, 1982. It's been a huge success. Its ratings at an all-time high. And what's more, its writers have won back-to-back Emmys in 1984 and again in 1985. With me live via satellite to justify his existence is the wacky host of Late Night with David Letterman. What's his name? David, hello, how are you?
Hi, Sue, how are you?
Well, good to
nice to talk with you.
Good to have you with us. 4 years into the mission, did you ever think you'd last this long?
No, I didn't think we'd last 6 months, so when we passed that milestone, that was quite an accomplishment for us, but 4 years, no. In all honesty, I didn't have any idea that we'd still be here, and I'm not sure anybody on the staff or anybody at NBC felt we'd still be here, but we're happy to be here. I'd certainly rather have a job than not have a job.
Some of the people who have stayed with you, including some of the people who've encouraged your career, have said that you've got an ability to keep things fresh. Now, I know there's no formula, but how do you do it? What thinking goes into that?
You know how I keep things fresh? An open box of baking soda in the refrigerator. And that seems to do the trick. Don't ask me to explain it, but it works time after time. And then after about, 6, 7 weeks, throw it out, get a new box. It's a miracle.
Therein lies your answer, sort of a two-part one. What have you thrown out, David, for being just too absurd, that you just wouldn't do?
Gee, I think that we wouldn't do anything that was, we don't want to really be malevolent. We don't want to be nasty to somebody. We don't want to really just get somebody in here and pick them apart and then get rid of them. We wouldn't do anything to deliberately hurt anybody's feelings, is what I'm saying. And other than that, it's our own sense of good taste and decorum that we try to operate within. And if we ever step out of line, then NBC always reminds us of what we're trying to do here is entertain the entire country and not just amuse ourselves. But, it's not like it's a room full of maniacs. We have a pretty good sense of how to be polite in mixed company, although I guess it might be difficult to prove some nights. But we try and patrol our own selves. Patrol ourselves.
Well, you talk about NBC wanting to keep you in line. That sort of brings to mind the Today Show. And is your friendship with Bryant Gumbel on safe grounds?
I haven't spoken to Bryant in a long, long time. We had kind of a falling out over something that took place when they were doing their primetime version of the Today Show last summer, I guess it was. And we were encouraged and actually invited by the producer of that program. His name is Steve Friedman, by the way. Incidentally, if you have any programming ideas or suggestions on how to improve the Today Show, or you'd just like to strike up a correspondence with Mr. Friedman, please feel free to write to him. That's Steve Friedman, care of NBC here at 30 Rockefeller Plaza, the Today Show producer. He'll be glad to talk to you. He said, come on in and interrupt our broadcast of the primetime Today Show. And we said, are you sure you want us to do this? And he said, oh, absolutely. Bryant will love it. So we did. We interrupted their show with our bullhorn out of the window just above them. And Steve never bothered to tell Bryant that we were going to do this.
That
and
makes it
so
a little
Bryant
tough.
was naturally upset, and I certainly understand him being upset, and he still hasn't gotten over it, and therefore I think he's kind of a weenie.
Nothing like like wanting to bury the hatchet. Again, tomorrow night, a 90-minute special celebrating 4 years of Late Night with David Letterman. What's his name is the host there, here on NBC Channel 4 in Detroit. David, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Sue. Has this we've been doing this in Tiger Stadium?
Yeah, we have, as a matter of fact, but don't tell anybody else, okay?
Yeah, it sounds a little like that.
Okay. Bye-bye, David.
Goodbye.
A little bit of an echo there, I think, a moment ago. He used to be a weatherman. As a matter of fact, Rick Griffin is a weatherman right now, and he's going to fill us in on the weather conditions. Plus, we're going to have an update on that strange tremor situation going on in just 1 minute. Stay with us, please.
Listen, if you're 50 and over and paying full price for doctor's bills not covered by insurance, this is just what the doctor ordered. The new Gold Card and 55 Plus. It's good for free annual physicals, $6 doctor's office visits, up to 50% savings on prescriptions, and 30 to 70% savings on your dental, optical, and hearing aid bills. Now, you call 569-4120. It's the new Gold Card, keeping you healthy, saving you money.
You'll never know if you've got the lowest Olds price unless you shop Gage Olds. We're not fancy or flashy, but we beat the competition hands down by keeping our overhead low. See this? At the fancy dealerships, they call them phone booths. Here at Gage Olds, we call them offices.
Come on down to Gage, we're low-priced overall. We ain't got fancy carpets, but our tile runs wall to wall.
Metropolitan Ferndale's largest Olds dealer on Woodward, south of 9 Mile.
We ain't fancy, but we're cheap.
It's here. It's at Waterbed Gallery. It's a one-day end-of-the-month sale. A finished bookcase is only $199.95. A waveless mattress only $39.95. Only at Waterbed Gallery.
Kind of a wild day out there. The heck with the weather. We're talking tremors here today. Nothing too serious as far as we know, but people felt it.
That's true. I think I found out from a lady who just moved here from California. She called up and she says, I'm sure that was an earthquake.
She should know. She's probably wondering why she came.
That's right. She didn't know we had them here in Michigan, but we do occasionally. Well, right now, as far as the weather's concerned, it's pretty nice. Mostly sunny skies, 25 degrees at Metro Airport. At City Airport, it's 27. Humidity 62%. The barometer is steady, and the winds are fairly light, southwest at 6. So far today, the high, 25 degrees officially, and the early morning low was chilly, 8 degrees. Around the rest of the Great Lakes region, as of noontime, we are sitting at 25 up at Bay City, 22 degrees, 21 at Alpena. The Sioux now at 15, 21 at Traverse City, and 24 degrees at Muskegon, while Green Bay is the cold spot now at 11. On the satellite picture, as of midday, we see that here in the metro area, we are still basically in the clear, but there is a pretty sharp line of clouds over the extreme southern part of the state. It's cloudy around Benton Harbor and around the St. Joseph and Battle Creek area as well. This cloud bank is gradually moving in our direction, but at least the leading edge of it is the high, thin stuff, so the sun will get through for another couple of hours during the afternoon today, and there's no precipitation anywhere nearby. On the national satellite picture, we can see fair skies over the southeast and some bright white clouds along the west coast. There is a storm system moving in there, and on radar, you can see the areas of rain and mountain snow. In fact, San Francisco reported heavy rain during the past hour. Here's a cold front moving in just about on the California shoreline and will move inland during the afternoon hours. Another pair of storm systems right along the eastern slopes of the Rockies, and this is the one that'll kind of break off and gradually move in our direction tonight and for the first part of the weekend. Right now, this ridge of high pressure is dominating the weather situation here in the lakes area with, of course, some mostly sunny skies. Afternoon high temperatures today will range from the teens on the upper peninsula. We may edge up to about 30 this afternoon with 60s down along the Gulf Coast. Miami down through Brownsville, Texas. They'll be in the low to mid 70s during the afternoon hours. Well, tonight, here's that storm system that's in eastern Colorado now, and it will edge to the east. And north of the storm, a little band of precipitation, and we may see some light snow developing tonight, and it should continue off and on into the daylight hours Saturday. High pressure along the eastern seaboard and the west. Well, it'll continue stormy there with the heaviest precipitation out through California and the Pacific Northwest. Around this area on Saturday, a little rain and snow, but it should get above freezing in the afternoon with the road conditions improving. And then on Sunday, after a pretty soggy start tomorrow, Sunday is going to dry out as the winds shift into the west, and temperatures should be above normal for this time of the year. The forecast for the rest of today looks pretty good. We'll call it partly sunny. There should be some clouds around by evening. The high today right around 30. Mostly cloudy. Little light snow developing later tonight, 20 to 23 the low this evening, and then rising temperatures towards morning. Saturday, light snow and freezing drizzle in the morning, and then a few rain showers in the afternoon in the 30s. And Sunday, as I mentioned, drying out, partly cloudy, 35 to 38. And I'll be back with the extended forecast in a couple of minutes.
Okay, warm it up a little bit. Thank you, Rick. Well, each year, television executives from across the country meet to find the programs that will keep you tuning in. Tonight, News 4's business editor Jennifer Moore continues her extra with a preview of this year's winners and losers.
The playing board is here, the NATPE convention in New Orleans. The syndicators' booths, the squares, 238 of them, including 51 foreign exhibitors. The lure to land on the squares, everything from a snapshot with a star to a well-stocked bar. And food, food, food. Everyone is trying to catch the attention of the potential program buyer. The biggest distributors spare no expense. Walt Disney Productions, new to syndication this year, spent more than $500,000 to recreate a Magic Kingdom on the convention floor. A big splash to entice local program buyers into small booths to view the shows up for sale.
Certainly not all the shows will succeed. Maybe 1 out of 9 shown here will ever even end up appearing on the air. This can be make it or break it time for the syndicators who make their sales pitches and final deals behind closed doors.
What is the deal?
The dealing is intense. Detroit stations shell out tens of thousands of dollars a day for the right to air syndicated shows. And syndicators rush to cash in on programming trends. The biggest this year, game shows. Spurred by the success of the Wheel of Fortune, 20 other game shows popped up on the convention floor.
Have you looked at, has anyone talked to you about Star Cluster and why we developed it as a comedy game show?
Four Star International is one company pushing 2 new game shows, Star Cluster and Matchmaker. It's a smaller company without the big promotional budget of its bigger competitors, making it harder to be noticed. Neither of its shows was a clear-cut success at the convention, but that does not necessarily mean failure.
These kind of shows are not excessively expensive to produce, and if we get 10, 12, 15 stations, we can probably go on the air with it.
Most syndicators say they need 50 to 60% of the nation's TV markets to make it, and so an empty booth during the convention is cause for serious concern.
Do I worry? You betcha. You betcha.
Come on!
Worrying can be a way of life during the convention for small-time syndicators, who this year offered up an unusual assortment of programs they believe you want to see.
It's called Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. My name is Commander Mark, and I host an exciting children's series. It's Beat the IRS TV game show.
Strange Paradise, and it's a gothic soap opera.
On land, sea, and space, it's Bozo News!
This show is one of the greatest, most innovative shows that America's had since television's come on.
Will any of them make it? Stay tuned this fall to your local stations. From New Orleans, Jennifer Moore, News 4.
And just ahead on 12 o'clock live, college basketball action that brought some surprises to some fans. We'll tell you about it in just a minute.
I think the first thing you learn in the kitchen is make it convenient. Put everything where you can get to it and use the right cookware for the job. So for roasting or baking, the cookware I use is a Reynolds oven cooking bag. It's such a convenient way to cook a meal because the meat bastes itself tender and juicy right inside the bag. And there's no messy pan or oven to clean up. Look for Reynolds oven cooking bags, the convenient cookware from the makers of Reynolds Wrap.
Would you like to hear better at half the cost? Hearing Healthcare Associates, Michigan's largest hearing aid manufacturer, now offers you this tiny unit for just $299. No tubes, no cords, no wires. Now, this includes a 4-year guarantee, not available anywhere else. At the Hearing Healthcare Centers, you deal directly with hearing professionals and save hundreds of dollars. For a free hearing test and consultation, call the Hearing Healthcare Associates at 772-7911.
And now a news update for our hearing-impaired viewers. There are conflicting reports this noon on the reported fall of the Haitian government. Jackson Space Center joins in the National Memorial Service for the shuttle astronauts. Channel 4 will carry the Houston Memorial Service at 12:30. Washington is investigating possible drug use by employees of the Drug Enforcement Administration office in Detroit. And actor Clint Eastwood is running for mayor of his town, Carmel, California. This has been a news update for our hearing-impaired viewers.
You are about to make a choice. Over time, it could save you hundreds of dollars. This is a ballot like the one your local phone company is sending out, asking you to choose a long-distance company. Choose MCI Dial 1 long-distance service. There are no extra numbers to dial. You can use any phone, push button, or rotary. With MCI Dial 1 service, you can call anywhere AT&T goes across the country anytime. If you don't have a ballot yet, just call this number so you can finally start saving money on long distance.
America, you're working hard to stay in shape. You're pushing up, sitting up. Now follow it up with fresh Flora Gold's grapefruit. Bursting with sweet, juicy goodness and mouth-watering flavor. Fresh Flora Gold grapefruit is a great way to get vitamin C and some very important minerals. So America, keep reaching up, pulling up, and shaping up with a premium grapefruit from Florida's Indian River. Flora Gold.
You are the hope of the hungry. Send your contributions to Interfaith Hunger Appeal, Post Office Box 1000, New York, New York, 10150.
A major upset in college basketball last night. The #1 North Carolina Tar Heels were beaten by Virginia 86-73. A good night for both of Michigan's Big Ten college teams. U of M clobbered Northwestern 82-45, an impressive comeback for Michigan, which lost 2 of its last 3 games. MSU won a squeaker last night over Wisconsin. Scott Skiles poured in 36 points as State took the Badgers 83-81. Let's get a check on the weekend weather now from Rick Griffin.
Okay, Dan, temperatures are going to continue to moderate right on through the weekend. In fact, tomorrow's high temperature should be up in the mid-30s or so on Saturday with a little snow in the morning and a bit of rain in the afternoon. On Sunday, it gets even a little bit milder, 37 for a high then. And as we edge into early next week, 41, not bad Monday, a little rain possible, and on Tuesday back down into the mid-30s, but not too tough to take. For the latest forecast, give the update line a call at 1-976-1212. Tomorrow morning could be kind of slippery, and you want to tune into Mal Sillers today at 5 to find out about the weekend and update on it. Anyway.
Okay, thank you, Rick. We want to update our top story right now. As we said, a tremor struck parts of the U.S. today from central Michigan to the states of Ohio and Pennsylvania. Reportedly, it registered 5.0 on the Richter scale. In Michigan, people reported their houses shook in cities as far north as Bay City, as far south as Adrian. Detroit residents say entire buildings trembled for several seconds. The U.S. Geological Service in Golden, Colorado reports there was activity in the central U.S. area, but could not provide any more details at this time. It is investigating all reports. So far, though, no injuries or damage have been reported. That is our report for this Friday afternoon. We're going to check in to see what Sue has coming up for us on Monday. Sue.
Dan, coming up on Monday, we'll talk with the regional director of Club Med. He'll look at how terrorism is playing a role in world travel.
Okay, also News 4 at 5 and 6, we're going to update that tremor situation. We'll also have more on the ties between local gas station operators and the Middle East. That's our report for this Friday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Batten down the hatches, and we'll see you on Monday.
The real people of Olds are turning this town upside down with Name Your Deal Days. Instead of your Olds dealer telling you what a new Oldsmobile will go for, you tell him. We're wide open to offers on all our new Olds, and now with 7.9% APR financing, save hundreds more on Cutlass Supremes and 4-cylinder Cutlass Sierras. See one of the real people of Olds today. Make your best deal and save hundreds more with 7.9% financing on selected models. Hurry!
No-cost cataract surgery from the Michigan Eye Institute.
Bill, since your cataract surgery, you're a new person.
Now I can see.
Well, I've been thinking about having my cataracts removed, but...
Why put it off? It's virtually painless with hardly any recovery time.
Sure, but it must still cost plenty.
Not so. It's covered by your insurance. Hospital or outpatient.
Well, cataract surgery sure has changed your life.
For the better. Jen!
Oh, no.
Call the Michigan Eye Institute, 357-3560.
California's plumpest pitted prune has a sweet idea.
Sunsweet in the morning. Oh, wake up right. The plumper the better.
A look at the business of television, the TV game on News 4 tonight at 11.
Usually seen at this time will not be seen today in order to bring you an NBC News special report.
a day of mourning. In Houston, here is Tom Brokaw.
Good morning, everyone, from the Johnson Space Center just south of Houston, Texas, the main campus of NASA, the nerve center for the Space Shuttle program. It is from here that all the astronauts graduate. And it is here that we've had so many joyous gatherings, celebrations of America's space triumphs. Today, however, we gather to mourn, to remember America's greatest space tragedy, the explosion and destruction of the Space Shuttle Challenger, the deaths of all 7 people on board. And the NASA family has gathered here today as well. The surviving family members of the crew are here. Also the workers, the officials of the space program. Current and retired astronauts have flown here from all over the country. Senator John Glenn and Rusty Schweikert, you can see. They are here as one to remember. Neil Armstrong making a rare public appearance, the first man on the moon, of course. And President Reagan will be here today as well. He'll be speaking to this group and to the entire country as the symbolic head of the American family. What is so striking, of course, about those 7 crew members who died in that violent explosion is that they represented such a cross-section of America. Men and women, black and white, a Japanese American, Jewish and Protestant, military and civilian. NASA workers will be gathered at other sites today as well, at Edwards Air Force Base in California, which has been the landing site of so many successful shuttle flights. Also at the Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida, the launch pad, where the investigation goes on, the tedious process of gathering the debris that is washing ashore yet. At Annapolis today, there were memorial services. That's the Naval Academy. And the pilot on this Space Shuttle Challenger, Michael Smith, was a graduate of the Naval Academy. We'll see some of those services now. And at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida today, NBC's chief science correspondent Robert Bazell is standing by as he's been monitoring the investigation there. What is the mood today at the Kennedy Space Center, Bob?
Well, Tom, from here where the Challenger took off on its flight of just over 1 minute before it exploded, stopped now. There's memorial service. But meanwhile, in the waters offshore from here, the Coast Guard, Navy, and other patrol boats continue the grisly task of picking up what's left of the Challenger. Bigger and bigger pieces of debris are being found all the time. That task goes on even during the memorial service. But most of the workers here are just mourning the loss of their friends and colleagues. Tom?
And Fred Briggs is in Concord, New Hampshire today, the tiny capital of that tiny state which has received so much attention. It was, of course, the home of Christa McAuliffe, the school teacher, the teacher in space that everyone was so excited about. She perished along with the other 7 regular astronauts. Fred, they have, what, statewide services planned for this evening?
Yes, they do it at 6 o'clock. And what makes this day particularly poignant is that this was very likely that today Christa McAuliffe would have been teaching her class from space this Friday to her students at the high school. Tom?
Have they adjusted at all yet, Fred, in Concord, to all of the attention that they have been receiving and to the obvious shock of losing such a loved member of their community?
Not altogether. They have been pursued by the press, and I think the press has tried to be restrained about it. But no, I think they need a catharsis, and I think perhaps this statewide memorial service that will be taking place in front of the Capitol tonight may accomplish some of that.
We have paid a lot of attention, of course, to Christa McAuliffe because she was the school teacher, and she was that one person with which we could all identify. And the people here at NASA understand that, but at the same time, they constantly remind us that there were 6 other members on board: Scobie, Smith, Resnick, Onizuka, Jarvis, and McNair. And of course, we have not forgotten them, and they will be remembered not just today, but in the long annals of the American space program. There are memorial services today in Akron, Ohio, at Temple, Israel, for Judy Resnick, organized by members of her family. And in Concord, as I say, there will be statewide services tonight. Also in Greensboro, North Carolina today, that was the alma mater, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical College, the alma mater of Ronald McNair, one of 4 black astronauts in this program. Also the alma mater of the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who will be speaking there today. I had an opportunity to speak briefly this morning with a friend of mine who is an astronaut here at the Johnson Space Center, and he said most of their attention for the moment is focused on working with the families, the surviving family members. There are 11 children altogether who lost a father or a mother in this case. We do have Jim Cummins now in Akron, Ohio today. Jim, tell us about what's going on there.
Tom, shortly there will be a memorial service for Dr. Judy Resnick, known affectionately around here as JR, high school class valedictorian, electrical engineer, a PhD in electrical engineering. Attending that service will be her family, her father, mother, a brother, and a sister, as well as astronauts who flew with Dr. Resnick on the maiden voyage in 1984 when she took her first shuttle flight. As you know, she was America's second woman in space, Tom.
Thank you, James. The difficulty, of course, for members of the NASA family is not just the emotional shock of what is going on, that they've lost 7 people with whom they work so closely, but this is an organization dedicating to knowing the answers to questions before they're even asked. These are among America's best and brightest electrical engineers and physicists, and they have all manner of signals and telemetry that they're able to analyze at any given moment and know what is going on. The rest of us are caught up with the romance of space, the majesty of liftoff, or the majesty of the landing. But here, they know that it's a very complex journey in which they send those people every day, and so they work for hours, days, years on end to get ready for a single launch. And there are literally millions of pieces of information that are fed in here. But there was nothing to indicate that something was going to go seriously afoul on Tuesday until the moment, of course, that we all saw it for ourselves on television. And that's part of the dilemma for NASA. But the work will go on here because there has been a kind of rededication to the spirit of America's space program, which is so heavily invested in the space shuttle system, the space transportation system as they refer to it here. President Reagan has made that point again and again. The space shuttle system will go forward. Mrs. Scobie, who is the widow now of the Dick Scobie, who was the commander of this space program, told Vice President Bush on the day it happened that the space shuttle program must go forward. Other people are watching this today as well at the National Space Center Museum in Washington, D.C., which is a part of the Smithsonian. Jim Miklashevsky is there where they have monitors organized. Jim?
Tom, officials here at the National Air and Space Museum say the shuttle exhibit has long been a favorite of the 10 million people who pass through here every year. Obviously, over the past couple of days, it's taken on a special significance. No longer does it stand as just a tribute to man's achievements in outer space, but as a memorial to the 7 men and women who died aboard Challenger. People today are approaching this exhibit with a kind of reverence, if you will. They're not so anxious to learn about how the shuttle works or what the crew may wear or eat or drink aboard the shuttle missions, but more to pay their respects. Flowers have been laid at the base of this exhibit over the past couple of days, and the television monitor, which usually plays videotapes of past shuttle missions, today will carry the memorial service from Houston. Tom.
Thanks, Jim. There was a somber young man just off your right shoulder there, which reminds us, of course, that children had such an active role in this particular mission. There had been no classes in space organized all across the country. There's John Kennedy, Jr., who was a specially invited guest here today. It was his father who said that we shall go to the moon before the end of this decade, speaking in the early 1960s. So John and Caroline Kennedy and Senator Kennedy have been invited. President Reagan will speak briefly after an invocation by the Reverend Bernard Hawley. He's from the First Presbyterian Church in Salina, Kansas. He is also the father of one of the astronauts, Stephen Hawley, and the father-in-law of Sally Ride, the first woman in space. Dr. William Graham, the acting administrator, will open the ceremonies. There will be a lay reading by one of the astronauts, and then President Reagan will make a brief but very eloquent speech lasting about 5 minutes altogether. And then we'll have a flyover, the missing man formation. And it is always moving because Colonel Ellison Onizuka was a member of the Air Force. We'll have T-38s going over at about 1,000 feet over the Johnson Space Center. Akron, Ohio now. Dr. Resnick was so gifted. She was a gifted composer and classical piano player, a gardener. She loved the space program more than almost anything else. There was so much that she could have done, but she decided that she wanted to stay here and continue. And she was so looking forward to this flight. It would have been her second mission in space. And of course, some of her friends have talked about the irony of the fact that the first time that she went up, she was only the second woman. And this time when she went up again, there was another woman on board, Christa McAuliffe, who was getting most of the attention. But that didn't bother her. She just wanted to be treated as another astronaut, not as anybody special, which is pretty much the attitude of all of these astronauts. They work very hard at not trying to create a kind of celebrity around themselves, a sense of stardom, because they know that teamwork counts for so much. These people who are so gifted in so many ways, they have strong academic backgrounds, many of them electrical engineers or physicists. They have the right stuff in terms of their physical abilities, either to operate the big Canadarm in the back or to fly the spacecraft itself. And of course, they have the emotional and intestinal fortitude to take on this kind of brave and dangerous venture into space. Judy Resnick was very much one of those for all the other members of this particular crew. The Johnson Space Center is about 1,600 acres altogether, and normally people are working very quietly in cubicles and offices here on the many problems that are associated with any launch that is scheduled. They had hoped to launch again very shortly, but of course that's now all been deferred. The big question is, what happened? Well, we don't have the answers yet, but they're beginning to focus on one of the solid rocket boosters that was on the far side of the space shuttle. There is the possibility that one of the joints that's assembled in place at the Cape, that one of the joints came loose, that there was some leakage, it caught fire, and it became effectively a 6,000-degree blowtorch that ignited the big external tank. It contains 500,000 gallons of liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. We're running a little behind schedule now. President Reagan was meeting with members of the family in the building that you see right behind me. That's the building number 16, as they call it here, where they do a lot of the testing for the hardware for the space shuttle flights. The President arrived here today at a nearby Air Force base, and he should be appearing very shortly from that canopy that you can see on the right. The families have been assembled for, about 12 to 15 minutes now, all together. The band that you're hearing is the Air Force Band of the West from Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. One of the exceptional things about the American space program is the openness of it all. Here now is President and Mrs. Reagan. By the immediate family members of those people who perished. He's been meeting with them inside. It was scheduled for only 5 minutes, but obviously it went quite longer, and that's entirely understandable. These are other family members who are assembled here. The President and Mrs. Reagan greeting them now. We'll hear first from the Reverend Bernard Hawley from the First Presbyterian Church of Kansas, of Salina, Kansas, the father of astronaut Steve Hawley, the father-in-law of Sally Ride. Correction, it's Dr. William Graham, who's the acting administrator of NASA, with a welcome.
Mr. President, Mrs. Reagan, families of the Challenger crew, other members of the NASA family, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here today to honor 7 brave Americans, the crew of the spaceship Challenger. Dick Scobie, Mike Smith, Judy Resnick, Ron McNair, Al Onizuka, Greg Jarvis, and Christa McAuliffe were explorers who blazed the trail for the rest of us. Their courage and dedication represents all that's best in each of us and in America. The Challenger crew took something of all of us aloft on Tuesday. Their dreams of discovery are our dreams, and the men and the women of that flight will always live in our thoughts and in our hearts. I pray that families and friends will remember our pride and our gratitude and find some refuge in its warmth. God bless them all.
That was Dr. William Graham, who's the acting administrator of NASA. He was appointed to that post when James Begg, the director, had some legal difficulties. And this now is the Reverend Hawley.
We are gathered here today as a family that shares a common dream, common goal, common commitment, and now a common tragic and devastating loss. And as families do, we have drawn together to remember with love and faith 7 who embodied in a very special way that dream we all possess. Dick, Mike, Judy, Al, Ron, Greg, Christa. Shall we pause for a moment of prayer and meditation? O thou, whom we call by various names, approach by several paths, and yet all acknowledge as the source of life. Thy greatness is seen in this vast and wondrous universe. We turn now to thee because we need the assurance of a love equally great and wondrous. To feel that underneath are the everlasting arms, and to know that the hand that holds us is a hand we trust. We come here grateful for the many ways we have known those whom today we mourn as husband, wife, father, mother, daughter, son, colleague, neighbor, and friend. Each brings his or her own memories of love and laughter, of strength and tenderness, of enthusiasm and joy, skill and courage. And we are grateful for the privilege of having known them, having our lives touched by their lives, being bound by ties of love and caring. And now we pray for those who most keenly feel this loss. May they as surely feel the love that surrounds them, the caring that reaches out to them. May we be bearers of thy spirit of love, so that together we may know not only grief, but also the grandeur and the grace of life. Amen.
This is astronaut Lieutenant Colonel Charles Bolden, Jr. of the United States Marine Corps. He also flew on the Columbia earlier this month.
A reading for hope and strength from the 46th Psalms. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake in the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult. There is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy habitation of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God will help her right early. The nations rage, the kingdoms totter. He utters his voice, the earth melts. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. Come, behold the works of the Lord, how he has wrought desolations in the earth. He makes wars cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. He burns the chariots with fire. Be still. Know that I am God. I am exalted among the nations. I am exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge.
We come together today to mourn the loss of 7 brave Americans, to share the grief that we all feel, and perhaps in that sharing to find the strength to bear our sorrow and the courage to look for the seeds of hope. Our nation's loss is first a profound personal loss to the family and the friends and the loved ones of our shuttle astronauts. To those they left behind, the mothers, the fathers, the husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, yes, and especially the children. All of America stands beside you in your time of sorrow. What we say today is only an inadequate expression of what we carry in our hearts. Words pale in the shadow of grief. They seem insufficient even to measure the brave sacrifice of those you loved and we so admired. Their truest testimony will not be in the words we speak, but in the way they led their lives and in the way they lost their lives, with dedication, honor, and an unquenchable desire to explore this mysterious and beautiful universe. The best we can do is remember our 7 astronauts, our Challenger 7. Remember them as they lived, bringing life and love and joy to those who knew them, and pride to a nation. They came from all parts of this great country, from South Carolina to Washington State, Ohio to Mohawk, New York, Hawaii to North Carolina, to Concord, New Hampshire. They were so different, yet in their mission, their quest, they held so much in common. We remember Dick Scobie, the commander who spoke the last words we heard from the Space Shuttle Challenger. He served as a fighter pilot in Vietnam, earning many medals for bravery. Later as a test pilot of advanced aircraft before joining the space program. Danger was a familiar companion to Commander Scobie. We remember Michael Smith, who earned enough medals as a combat pilot to cover his chest, including the Navy Distinguished Flying Cross, 3 air medals, and the Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry with Silver Star, in gratitude from a nation he fought to keep free. We remember Judith Resnick, known as JR to her friends, always smiling, always eager to make a contribution,
finding beauty in the music she played on her piano in her off hours. We remember Ellison Onizuka, who was a child running barefoot through the coffee fields and macadamia groves of Hawaii, dreamed of someday traveling to the moon. Being an Eagle Scout, he said, had helped him soar to the impressive achievements of his career. We remember Ronald McNair, who said that he learned perseverance in the cotton fields of South Carolina. His dream was to live aboard the space station, performing experiments and playing his saxophone in the weightlessness of space. Well, Ron, we will miss your saxophone, and we will build your space station. We remember Gregory Jarvis. On that ill-fated flight, he was carrying with him a flag of his university in Buffalo, New York. A small token, he said, to the people who unlocked his future. We remember Christa McAuliffe, who captured the imagination of the entire nation, inspiring us with her pluck, her restless spirit of discovery, a teacher not just to her students, but to an entire people, instilling us all with the excitement of this journey we ride into the future. We will always remember them, these skilled professionals, scientists and adventurers, these artists and teachers and family men and women, and we will cherish each of their stories. Stories of triumph and bravery, stories of true American heroes. On the day of the disaster, our nation held a vigil by our television sets. In one cruel moment, our exhilaration turned to horror. We waited and watched and tried to make sense of what we had seen. That night, I listened to a call-in program on the radio. People of every age spoke of their sadness and the pride they felt in our astronauts. Across America, we are reaching out, holding hands, and finding comfort in one another. The sacrifice of your loved ones has stirred the soul of our nation. And through the pain, our hearts have been open to a profound truth. The future is not free. The story of all human progress is one of a struggle against all odds. We learned again that this America, which Abraham Lincoln called the last best hope of man on earth, was built on heroism and noble sacrifice. It was built by men and women like our 7-star Voyagers, who answered a call beyond duty, who gave more than was expected or required, and who gave it little thought of worldly reward. We think back to the pioneers of an earlier century, the sturdy souls who took their families and their belongings and set out into the frontier of the American West. Often they met with terrible hardship. Along the Oregon Trail, you can still see the grave markers of those who fell on the way. But grief only steeled them to the journey ahead. Today, the frontier is space and the boundaries of human knowledge. Sometimes when we reach for the stars, we fall short. But we must pick ourselves up again and press on, despite the pain. Our nation is indeed fortunate that we can still draw on immense reservoirs of courage, character, and fortitude. But we're still blessed with heroes like those of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Dick Scobie knew that every launching of a space shuttle is a technological miracle. And he said, if something ever does go wrong, I hope that doesn't mean the end to the Space Shuttle program. Every family member I talked to asked specifically that we continue the program, that is what their departed loved one would want above all else. We will not disappoint them. Today we promise Dick Scobie and his crew that their dream lives on, that the future they worked so hard to build will become reality. The dedicated men and women of NASA have lost 7 members of their family, Still, they too must forge ahead with a space program that is effective, safe, and efficient, but bold and committed. Man will continue his conquest of space to reach out for new goals and ever greater achievements. That is the way we shall commemorate our 7 Challenger heroes. Dick, Mike, Judy, Elle, Ron, Greg, and Christa, your families and your country mourn your passing. We bid you goodbye. We will never forget you. For those who knew you well and loved you, the pain will be deep and enduring. A nation, too, will long feel the loss of her 7 sons and daughters, her 7 good friends. We can find consolation only in faith, for we know in our hearts that you who flew so high and so proud now make your home beyond the stars, safe in God's promise of eternal life. May God bless you all and give you comfort in this difficult time.
President Reagan, characteristically eloquent on these occasions. Now we'll have a singing of America the Beautiful and a flyover. That was the playing of Eternal Father, which is the traditional Navy hymn, of course. And now, once again, the Reverend Bernard Hawley.
Will you please rise and join in the singing of America the Beautiful?
For
We are expecting the flyover, and we can see them now forming in the distance. The traditional missing man formation of the United States Air Force. T-38s, the training jets of NASA. Coming right directly over them all at 1,000 feet. Just in the background there, the Corrigans, who are the parents of Christa McAuliffe. The president now saying goodbye to the families. They'll be returning to Washington. He did meet with them prior to these services, of course. Shook hands with each of them along the way. Said that he wished that there were words that could make things better, but that, of course, that there were not. Mrs. Reagan with him. She gave each of the family members a hug and a kiss in those private audiences beforehand. This has become a ceremony too familiar to the Reagans. It wasn't so long ago, of course, that they were at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to express their personal condolences and sympathies to the members of the 101st Airborne who died in that terrible airplane crash in Gander, Newfoundland. Indicated earlier, 11 children altogether have lost a parent in this tragedy. There are funds that are being set up for them. Also, they're organizing scholarships in the names of Christa McAuliffe, hoping that all school teachers across the country will contribute at least $1 to such a scholarship fund. The program is organized by a youngster out in Bend, Oregon, Kids for Space, hoping that they can pay for the replacement cost of the lost Shuttle Challenger. It's a tall order, $1.2 billion it cost to build it. Smith plans to establish a scholarship program to allow disadvantaged youngsters to attend a space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, one of the places in the country where they're introducing this generation to the space program. It was, of course, a big concern of President Reagan and others that youngsters not be, if you will, turned off of space as a result of this tragedy, because that is their future. And he made several direct appeals to them to think about space again. The great tragedy, of course, is that in many classrooms across the country, youngsters were eyewitnesses, more or less, to what happened because they were watching on television when the explosion occurred. So those ceremonies conclude here, and the work goes on again at the Johnson Space Center, the nerve center of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Agency. Other ceremonies were being conducted as well today across the country, as I indicated earlier, on the campus of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Greensboro, North Carolina, is the alma mater of Ronald McNair, one of 4 black astronauts in this program. He graduated magna cum laude from that school. It is also the alma mater of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Now we would like to show you some of the sights and sounds of those memorial services today at North Carolina AT&T.
Our only consolation is that God can put the pieces back together. Many of our bodies, our minds, our broken hearts are hurting deeply today, but God can put it back together again. When the young and the brave and the courageous and the talented are snatched without warning, we feel robbed. Our foundation is shaken. Ronald McNair dead at 36. Dr. King at 39. Dr. Ronald McNair took us to the mountaintop of scientific exploration that we might see beyond the mountaintop that Dr. King stood on as he saw new worlds. A&P, this is holy ground. Every teacher is challenged. There's some more Ronald McNairs out there. Every student is challenged. There's a potential Ron McNair that's your roommate. We're not Cohen Huss. We are people. We are pearls.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson, another graduate of North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. It's the alma mater of Ronald McNair, one of the astronauts who perished Tuesday. Mr. McNair was a magna cum laude graduate of that school. He went on to earn a doctorate in physics from MIT. He's a native of South Carolina. In Concord, New Hampshire now, NBC News correspondent Fred Briggs, who has been there since Tuesday's accident happened. It was the hometown of Christa McAuliffe. It is the state capital of New Hampshire. Fred?
Tom, at this very moment, the students and teachers are having a memorial service of their own at the Concord High School auditorium. No outsiders have been invited. In fact, President Reagan expressed some interest in coming here earlier in the week, and very politely he was turned down. It was not rudeness, it was just a need for privacy. When the staff and the students were debating how to have the services yesterday, somebody suggested inviting a representative of NASA, and then one girl said, "I don't think I could cry with a representative of NASA here." There is a need to cry here today.
The students arrived this morning for a half day of classes, although they really weren't classes as such. It was more like group therapy going on in every room. Therapy for the staff as well as the students. The school library has accumulated messages of sympathy of every possible kind from all over the nation. In some cases, messages of empathy from other high schools where a favorite teacher was lost. There were cards, letters, telegrams from the prominent and the ordinary. And there were flowers from almost every state, including Alaska. Again, the majority sent by students at other high schools. This model of the Challenger has been on display in the library for some weeks now. Until Tuesday, it brought a quiet thrill to every student studying here, a source of pride. Now it's a source of sorrow, and most students can't bring themselves to look at it.
President Reagan did send a letter to the students and the faculty, and it is probably being read aloud now by one of the students who used to be in Christa McAuliffe's class. We don't know the exact text, but we assume it is similar to the message that he just gave at the funeral in Houston, offering condolences, yet reaffirming the shuttle program and reaffirming Christa McAuliffe's faith in that program. Tonight at 6 o'clock, there will be a memorial service on the steps of the state capitol. It'll be a very, very public service this time, a service that will be both a tribute and a catharsis for all the people of New Hampshire. Tom?
Much, Fred Briggs, and of course, Christa McAuliffe was every person's teacher on this flight. We're all very attached and admire all of the astronauts, but they seem a little bit beyond our reach. They are the people with the right stuff, with the intelligence and the bravery and all. But Christa McAuliffe, we've all had a school teacher who looked like that, sounded like that, perky, energetic, enthusiastic. And then to have her lost as well just made this all the more intense in terms of the dimensions of the tragedy. NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Fred, Chris Wallace is right with me right now. The president made a specific point, as he has again and again all week, of saying not only that the Space Shuttle program will continue, but that the space station will be built. This is crucial, of course, to the Strategic Defense Initiative, to the Star Wars program, and there will be a setback of what dimensions we're not sure yet in SDI as a result of this, but the president is making it very clear politically he's determined to go forward.
Well, that is interesting, Tom, because the fact is that the space station is going to be tremendously expensive. They're talking about something like $8 billion in a project that was already scheduled not to be completed until 1994, now with this tragedy probably beyond that. And I think that if there had been any second thoughts within the White House about possibly scaling back on the manned space program, maybe too much danger in putting men into space, maybe we should automate more, and there is some talk about that in the country. You might have seen it there, but the president went out of his way in his very eloquent speech today to say that Ron McNair, one of the 7 who had lost his life, had dreamed of being in a space station, playing a saxophone in a space station, and the president said, well, Ron, it will be built. It's interesting, there is a debate going on within the White House. NASA is going to be allowed to investigate the accident, but there is a debate going on within the White House about setting up a separate presidential commission to examine the whole question of where the space program should go, re-examine the shuttle program, re-examine the whole question of man in space. But it would seem that the president has, to a certain degree, already preempted a number of those questions in saying he's going to go ahead with the shuttle and with the manned space station.
Do they expect any additional political difficulty, political criticism of their plans for SDI, for the Star Wars program, as a result of this tragedy and the setback?
Well, I think that they believe that the people that oppose SDI, both in the Soviet Union and in this country, are going to use this as an excuse. But, you know, the president was absolutely determined beforehand to go ahead with SDI, and you get the feeling that, if anything, his determination has only been increased.
All right, Chris Wallace, NBC News Chief White House Correspondent. It's very hard to kind of encapsulate the feelings that all of us have as a result of this week. But, of course, we feel that we know each of these people in a personal way at the end of a week like this, with all the intense exposure that they've received. One of the 7 remarkable people on that flight was a woman by the name of Judith Resnick. She was making her 2nd flight in the space shuttle. She's from Akron, Ohio, where she won all manner of honors there, most of them academically. And today there were services for her organized for her family by Temple Israel in Akron, Ohio, and Jim Cummins is there now. Jim?
The other astronauts who flew with Dr. Resnick aboard the maiden voyage of the Space Shuttle Discovery and America's first woman in space, Sally Ride, are also here.
But her life itself. What is important is not her death, but that she lived. A life once lived can never be taken from us, will never be taken from us. It is eternal. It is forever. Each accomplishment that was hers, every smile, every moment of joy in her life, every achievement, every scrap of knowledge that she helped our nation and our world obtain is still ours to cherish. Death may have taken her. Death will never end the life that was hers. Nainatan, truly the Lord gave us Judy Resnick for his sacred purposes, to impart knowledge, to discover frontiers once only conceived in dreams. Adonai Lakach. And now, for his sacred purposes, the Lord has allowed Judy to be taken from us. Our heart breaks, it hurts. Tears as we share that heartbreak with the families of the 6 other astronauts perishing. Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We still praise the Lord for sharing this precious human being with us, for sharing her with we who continue to benefit from her labor, and that labor was a labor of love. Yehi Adonai mevarach. As hard as it is for me to utter those words, I still bless God, who allowed a nation to have the beautiful spirit that was Judy Resnick's.
Services today in Akron, Ohio, the hometown of Dr. Judy Resnick, one of the 7 astronauts who perished Tuesday at Temple, Israel, organized by her family. And at Cape Kennedy now, at Cape Canaveral, at the Kennedy Space Center, is Bob Bazell. He is NBC News chief science correspondent. He's covered any number of these space shuttle launches, and now he's focusing on the investigation that continues there today. Bob, is there anything new? I know that they have recovered much larger chunks of the fuselage, and they apparently have detected on the ocean floor, what, a big piece of material of some kind? Any more on that?
That's correct, Tom. A few minutes ago, everything here at the Kennedy Space Center just completely came to a halt. All the employees went to attend the memorial service. Right behind me is the launch pad where those 7 people took off on their flight of just over a minute that ended in such disaster. But in the waters offshore from the Cape Canaveral here, the search is continuing. Coast Guard, Navy ships, and other planes are going over finding these huge pieces of debris. This is one that was recovered last night. Ironically, the word rescue, that was the door that was right outside the position from where Christa McAuliffe was sitting. There is still some possibility that the crew compartment might have survived intact, because that's inside this material that is sealed up. NASA has said today that even if such a thing were recovered today, they wouldn't make any announcement of it out of respect to the families. There has been no indication then that any remains of any of the crew members have been discovered. However, the search does go on. There have been sonar findings of very large pieces underwater in fairly shallow water. However, there's very strong currents there, and it's made it difficult for the divers to get down to try to get lines on it to start bringing stuff up. A lot of material from the Challenger is still floating on the water. A lot is still washing ashore. The officials here are going to try to put it together to get as many clues as they possibly can about what caused the explosion on Tuesday. But again, the workers here at the Kennedy Space Center who knew all those people as we knew them were all stopped working and watched that enormously moving ceremony. Tom?
Are they saying anything there more, Bob, about Jay Barbary's report on NBC last night, that they are focusing a lot of their attention on one of those joints and the solid rocket boosters off to the side, thinking that it may have sprung a leak and created a kind of very massive blowtorch that could have ignited the external tank? Any more about that today?
That certainly is a very strong possibility that is indicated by films that NASA has that were taken from a different angle from the ones that we've been looking at over and over again of the explosion. However, NASA officials emphasize that even if it did look like that on the film, there are many unanswered questions. How it got through the external tank, how it happened, what caused the fracture to occur in the weld joint, and there aren't, even though the film showed that as a very strong possibility, everyone emphasizes that there is certainly no conclusion yet. The panel has just started to meet, and it will be many months of investigation before a final conclusion is drawn as to what caused the tragedy.
And can you tell us at all about what is going on around the beaches of Cape Canaveral? Are people still out looking for debris, or are they being held off those beaches by some of the military personnel that we've seen there?
No, Tom, there's just too much beach to hold the public off. The NASA and other officials have asked the public to be cooperative, and I think most people have been, that whenever they find anything that they think may be part of the Challenger, to call either NASA or the sheriff's office, and they have done that for the most part. That's been one of the biggest sources of the material that's been found, is that this stuff, people call that things that are found along the beach. NASA has been very emphatic that they need those things for 2 reasons. One is they don't know what could be a clue. All kinds of things are washing up on the beaches. And the other thing is that some of that stuff could be dangerous. It could have been containing some sort of solid fuel or something else that could be poisonous or corrosive. So they've been very firm in their request to the public to cooperate, to report anything that they find along the beaches, and so far it seems that people are doing that. I don't think too many people would want a piece of the Challenger as a souvenir at this point.
Thanks very much, Bob Bazell, today at the Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral, Florida. You know, the irony of this week is that the space program, by and large, has given us so many moments of national exhilaration, dating back from the early days of manned space flight. We did have those traumas, of course, of losing a lot of hardware, but there weren't people involved in the early days. And then The successful flights to the moon. Who could ever forget the suborbital flight, for example, of Alan Shepard, and the successful orbital flight of John Glenn? Neil Armstrong, Eagle has landed. One giant step for mankind. And then the space shuttle, which came to be a kind of a national symbol. And then this tragedy. Well, after today, after this week, of course, the risk takers will continue to take their risks. They'll find new frontiers for us. They will commit their minds and their bodies to our future. They'll solve the problems. They'll surmount the challenges. They'll fail occasionally, but by and large, I'm persuaded they will ultimately triumph, and we'll be all the richer for it. And we'll have memories, not just the bad memories of this week, but good memories, as we've had all along. Here are some of them for you now, as we have captured them along the years on television.
To go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Eagle, you're looking great. Go for landing, over.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
STS-7 and America's first woman astronaut.
The pioneer spirit still flourishes in America.
We'll continue our quest in space. There will be more shuttle flights, more shuttle crews, and yes, more volunteers, more civilians, more teachers in space. Nothing ends here. Our hopes and our journeys continue.
This has been an NBC News special report. We now join our regularly scheduled program.
I guess the fish didn't take my bait. Fence ain't coming. Hey.
You're late. I don't like to be kept waiting.
Keep your shirt on, lady. When you see what I got, it'll all be worth it. Can't get better stuff than this at the price.
I don't know. I don't see anything that appeals.
It's a man's ring. Got a boyfriend, a hubby, maybe that'd make a nice present. Oh!
Howie!
What the hell? This is a setup.
I don't think we'll put the gun down. Howie! Howie, are you all right? Oh, my God.
Hold it! Hold it! Don't make a move. Just stay right there. That's nice going, kid.
Thanks.
You got quite a kick there. Okay. Now I'm gonna call the police. And we come pick up our friend over here. Okay, now come on, move it. Move it. Get over. Stay right there.
Whoosh! It occurred to me that it was kind of dusty in there, so I thought I'd make some hot chocolate. I even put those little baby marshmallows. The kids like it.
Oh. Good, thanks.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Go ahead and laugh. I like to see people enjoy themselves. Tell you one thing, though, you were right. Roman never did clean that chimney.
Oh, you can't go anywhere like that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll run by your place, pick up some more clothes for you, and you can jump in the shower and get cleaned off. Are your keys in here?
They're in the coat. Now, you sure you don't mind?
No, least I can do after you've ruined your clothes because of me.
Well, you think he's your history?
I don't think any self-respecting cleaner would have anything to do with those clothes anymore. Carrie's off with her friends, so if you would, keep an ear out for the twins. I don't think they'll wake up, but you never can tell.
No, wait a minute. I'm a bachelor. Now, what do I do if the twins wake up?
Well, tell them a story, or teach them to play pinochle, or give them half a banana. They will do anything for a banana, but most of all, don't forget to change them. Bye.
Change him?
Change them.
Look, I was just getting in the shower.
Right.
Marlena is... Yes, you might say that. This is not the way it looks.
No, it never is. Look, I have to pick up some files on the Carson kid for Marlena. I need them tonight.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Well, guess I better let you go before you catch a chill.
Savannah. Get it.
I don't care. I don't care.
Excuse me, can you tell me when Lieutenant Carver's going to be back? Not till late this evening.
Oh.
Yeah, he's out of town on a case. If it's an emergency, I can, No, it's not an emergency. He can't do anything for me till he gets back in.
I got this guy in this thing, Alfred. These charges have nothing to do with me.
What made you do it, Johnny? Come on, get out, huh? Hey, Shane, what'd they do, arrest you?
Well, it seems that way, doesn't it, my friend?
What, they did that based on lies?
Listen, there's nothing I can do about it. I can't prove it, I think. Well, would you do something for me?
Yeah, anything, man.
Would you go tell Kimberly what's happened to me? I don't want her reading this in the newspapers first.
Oh, yeah, right. I'll do that for you.
I just pray she and our baby get through all this.
Yeah, don't worry about anything. I'll take care of it. I'll get you a lawyer. I'll
all in good time, Bo. First, take care of Kim.
Yeah, right, Governor. Catch you later.
Log cabin light is lickety-thick. It's got 1/3 less sugar in every lickety-lick.
Log Cabin Light pours on thicker than the other leading brands.
It's lickety-thick.
Minute Rice fits the way you're cooking with beef today. With steak or ribs or even stew, Minute Rice makes the dish for you in 5 minutes time. Get a taste that's prime. Minute Rice fits the way you want to cook today.
It's amazing what some people will do to keep you from messing up their clean kitchen. Well, here's new Lemon Fresh Ajax, so you can relax. Because new Ajax is Ajax Tough on all kinds of kitchen mess. But now with a fresh lemony scent that makes cleanup not so tough on you. So open up your kitchen and let the fun back in. Try Ajax Multi-Surface Cleaner in new lemon or good old ammonia. And relax with Ajax.
Pumping the power in your direction. Pumping maximum fluoride protection. A Colgate good morning. It's fun to brush before the AM rush. Colgate WMFP. The taste of mint or Winter Fresh Gel. It's 722 and looking good all over WMFP land. Maximum fluoride protection. Did you remember to brush today? Hey, my man, you've got the world's #1 toothpaste and the world's #1 pump. WMFP, the Colgate pump.
When your child is sick, you have enough to worry about. That's why this new BD Digital Fever Thermometer is so helpful. It gives you accurate readings 4 times faster than the old glass kind. 4 times faster and safer, too. No glass to break. A beep signal tells you when to read it, and the big, bold numbers are easy to see. New from BD, the thermometer brand doctors use most. BD takes the worry out of taking temperatures.
Chris? Chris?
Yeah, Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Brought those for you.
Thank you.
Well, sounds like things might have been pretty quiet around here, huh?
Yeah, well, I checked in on the twins. They're sleeping like babies.
That's what twins do for a living.
Oh, by the way, I got a message for you.
Yeah?
The man came by, was looking for a file she needs.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Well, she said she'd be back later.
Oh, okay. Did she find you when your tower
Yep.
went? Oh, dear. And I guess she thought that...
Yep.
I'm sorry about all that.
Don't be sorry. I'm the one that should be sorry.
Well, no, it's kind of my fault. I mean, you're only here to help me out, aren't
That's not what I'm talking about. I don't know whether this makes any sense or not, but even when this house is empty, it's not empty. I mean, this house, when it feels like a family lives here. I mean, even just being here for like a half an hour by myself, I could tell a difference. I mean, when you are in my house alone, you are alone.
Yeah, I know how that feels, too.
At any rate, it got me to thinking, and I just thought that maybe someday I would like to have a real home, family. Maybe someday it'd be nice to have a lady who didn't jump to conclusions either. A lady that kind of had some faith in me.
Would be nice. Why don't you have that now?
Well, I think the answer is very simple. I think I just got hooked up with the wrong women. Some of whom you know. No, it's just like most of them, I don't know, they had personal problems or obstacles in their way. It's just something that kept it from happening. And I don't know. Maybe it was me. Maybe I just didn't want it to happen. Maybe they were too nice. No, there's a side to me that likes these wild, dangerous women that get in your blood, heat it up, put knots in your stomach. But there's no future to it. And there's no commitment. And I think that it's in committing to and loving one woman, the right woman, and also to that commitment to the family. I think that's where we get the rewards that we're talking about.
I know what you mean about missing the family. I mean, I had the children and they're a blessing, but it's not the same. It's not complete. I miss the days when there was a solid, steady man around the house.
Put on the snow tires and clean the chimney?
Share secrets with. Talk to. Laugh with.
You got any good jokes, lady?
Something I'd find you here.
Oh, hi. You meeting Melissa here, too?
No, actually, I was looking for you. Melissa told me you'd be here.
Oh, me?
Recognize this?
Where'd you get that at?
I got it from a fence. Guy who owns a pawn shop.
You know, I would...
Pete, I got it off before the police arrived and pounded the stolen goods. Is there too much trouble I could get in for doing this? But then I realized not as much as you would if Melissa ever found out about it.
Thanks, Hope. I'll never forget this. Look, let's not tell Melissa, all right?
Pete, what's going on? How did that ring get to the pawn shop?
Like you said, stolen goods. I guess I was taking a shower and left it on a sink. Maybe somebody,
Pete, don't bother, all right? I can add 2 and 2. The ring got to the pawn shop because someone's trying to pawn it. Pete, Melissa was telling the truth when she said she didn't need a lot of fancy things to be happy.
I know she doesn't need them. I want her to have them. She deserves them, you know?
She also deserves a husband she can trust.
Yeah.
Listen, you got away with it this time. But don't expect this kind of thing to happen again, all right? Hi, guys. What's going on? Hi. Serious. Just keeping your seat warm, Melissa, that's all. See you later, Pete.
Bye. So, did you have a nice time shopping?
No, I'm going to hand it to you, Victor.
To us, Alex, to us, this is teamwork.
Well, yeah, all right, it's a team, but there's certainly a captain to the team. Let me just salute the talent. Let's call it talent.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I'm flabbergasted. It says here that the Justice Department has just come into possession of new evidence substantiating their case against accused spy Shane Donovan. How on earth did you manufacture those new files so quickly? And have them turn up in the right place at the right time?
Well, let's just say that the situation required us to be thorough.
Well, if I didn't know better, I'd believe the charges against Shane Donovan were true. Well done, Victor.
Yes, I'll second that.
How I would love to see the expression on Kimberly Brady's face right now.
Bo? Hey.
Kimber, you didn't even give me a chance to knock.
I know, I started coming up the drive. I was right, wasn't I? Look at me, Bo. The ISA knows they're not to take this stuff seriously.
Take it easy, take it easy. Take it easy, Kimberly. I'll tell you what's going on. If you just calm down, sit down over here.
I'm calm, just tell me.
I will. Sit down right over here.
I don't want to sit down. What do you...
Sit down, Kimber.
You make it sound like something's wrong or something. What happened?
Now, look, this may sound serious, but I don't want you to get too excited because things will be taken care of real soon.
Well, what are you talking about? What is it?
Shane was arrested just a little while ago.
Oh,
Now, take it easy. This is only temporary.
It's only Where is he? I want to see him right now.
Take it easy. He's down at police headquarters. Hey, Kimberly, take it easy. This is exactly what I didn't want to happen. Now, you calm down. I will take care of everything. Don't worry.
Don't worry?
Yeah.
You told me that a long time ago, Bo. You told me that he's innocent. Nothing would happen. Well, an innocent man is in jail, and that's exactly where I'm going because I want to see him.
No, Kimber, I don't want you going down there. Now, listen, I said I'll take care of everything. I will. I promise I will.
What are your promises? You said it would never come to this, and it has. Exactly what are you planning to do now, huh?
Kimber! I gotta do something. Just gotta do something.
There are days that it doesn't pay, 'cause nothing goes the right way. You try to do what you're supposed to do, but you just get in the way. You give it your all, but all you do is fall. Make it a Dinty Moore day.
Dinty Moore beef stew is America's favorite, so make it a Dinty Moore day with a real meat and potatoes meal.
Make it a Dinty Moore day.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. And if your child had a cough, she'd get just what the doctor orders. But for your cough, you play doctor at home, even trying medicine you originally bought for your child. You need one of the adult formulas from Vicks. For the coughs adults get, with the strength adults need. Formula 44 for coughs, 44D for coughs with congestion, and 44M for coughs with congestion and a raw, irritated throat. The adult formulas. You can't buy anything more effective.
The adult formulas from Vicks, of course.
Hello, I'm Orville Redenbacher. Do my friends know what tops my gourmet popping corn?
Tops your popcorn? No way. It's the lightest, fluffiest.
It's the best, but I can still top it with crunchy granola, buttery caramel, or toasted sesame. They're my new gourmet popcorn snacks.
Granola crunch, caramel crunch, sesame crunch. Orville Redenbacher, you've topped yourself.
For centuries, women have worshipped aloe for its soothing properties. Jergens has combined aloe with lanolin in a lotion that helps heal dry, chapped skin. It's more than aloe. It's Jergens Aloe and Lanolin Lotion. Beautiful women have always recognized aloe's benefits to the skin. That's why Jergens combined aloe with lanolin in a soap that keeps your skin feeling soft and smooth. Jergens Aloe and Lanolin Soap.
A man on the run risked everything to be with one woman.
I'm not leaving.
Will love cost him his freedom? Another world. Then, a father declares war on his own family.
Revenge can be a dangerous business, Dad.
What is his plan? Santa Barbara, this week.